Alright, this is a short video on using CSS. An introduction. I believe CSS is to the web page what the assembly line was to the automobile 100 years ago. CSS has been around for at least 10 years, half of the life of the World Wide Web. I have opened two notepads. Here's a blank one, and here is a page. This page here is right here. This is the page that the code right here refers to. Now there are some headers and images and navigation, and it's styled with what's called a CSS sheet, but it's styled with how my other pages are. The bland bluish gray background. Now I want to change this particular set of pages, the background having to do with World War II and my uncle's, when my uncle was in it. And I have an image that I created in Fireworks. You could do this in Photoshop, but my uncle left the Army as a sergeant, and it was there in 1943 to 1945. So this, I scanned his sergeant stripes in, and then I faded them down because I didn't want it to overpower the text. You don't want to overpower things. It's good when you do backgrounds to fade them so that they don't overpower what you really want people to see is your text and your images. But the feel is what I'm looking for. And this image is, I'm not sure the exact size, larger than thumbnail. But let's go back to the original file that we're going to work with, this one right here. Okay, now you notice there is a CSS file already here, and the CSS files are identified .css extension. So we're going to copy the link reference. I put my CSS files in a CSS directory. Very good idea is to keep them in their own subdirectory, just like you do images. This one's going to be called www2 and wwii for 2 CSS. Put your REW style sheet. Hopefully I haven't misspelled anything. If you see things misspelled and I don't get them, catch them, just know I'm not perfect. Okay, I think this looks pretty much like it's looks good. Just comparing it. If it isn't, it won't work, and then you make the corrections. Okay, what we would do is save this. It's already been saved, so I'm not going to save it again. And it would be saved in the CSS directory. I'm just going to minimize it. And we're going to create a new file, an external CSS file. And you may ask, why not? Why are you doing this? Why not just put it in the directory in the file that's already there? And you could do that. And I've actually done that before too. But the nice thing about CSS is that you can add HTML tags like body, for instance. And you can do this for any tag, H1, H2, any tag. You put the name of the HTML tag down. CSS is very simple. You have a left parenthesis. The hardest thing is the shift key and having to put your finger up there and do it. It just seems archaic at times. I always kind of indent my lines. Let's see, I'm not sure. Let's do it like this. White space is ignored. background image is a parameter or attribute of CSS, and you put a colon after all the CSS statements. URL, in this case we're interested in a URL, so we have URL, and we're going to grab it with the left parenthesis in the directory of my uncle's name. And images, I have an image file for whatever set of files I'm using. I put an image directory in it, which is again good organization. And this is the name of the JPEG that I created for the file. Right parenthesis and put a semicolon after it, even though there's only one statement, and the rules are that if there's only one statement you don't have to put a semicolon after a CSS statement, but for multiple ones you do. So I always put them in there. I can't remember that. When I program in languages like C#, and as opposed to Visual Basic, I got to remember to put the doggone semicolon in there because it won't work if you don't. Okay, this has been created. We're going to save the file in our CSS directory up here. Save it as www.css, and just using Notepad files. You can use Dreamweaver or any text editor you want as long as it's text. Now in this case, your two, I want to make sure all files, and then I would save it. It will replace this file. No, we already have it, so we're not going to replace it. It's in there. But yeah, you do want to make sure too, if you're saving with Notepad, that you check the file name in case you forgot to, and then it slaps a txt on the file. Just get rid of it. You want it to be a .css, and that's it. That's a simple one-line program, and this is what happens with it. This is the before. It's already on the no background here, and this is the after. How cool is that? There's other things you could do, stop the scrolling and stuff. That might be interesting to next lesson to show how this looks that way. And if you don't like the image, you can change it. And if you have a bunch of pages and you have included this file, external file, they will all reflect this. CSS is cool. See you next time.